A very good evening. This is Primetime News here on TV1 for the Newsfirst team. I am Ruaze Irfan. Before we move on with our bulletin, here's a look at your headlines for this evening.
Four injured in Barakapala landslide. Met Department warns public to remain vigilant. Trinco Harbour must be developed, says President.
India අපේ කෙඟ වෙලා තියෙනවා මේ ප්‍රදේශයේ විශේෂයෙන්ම කර්මාන්ත දියුණු කරන්න.
Appeal Court orders 4th Magistrates Court to postpone former President Sirisena's Easter Sunday court case by 10 weeks. Increase in aid to low-income countries including Sri Lanka, says IMF. Minister Kegel comments on those earning more than 100,000 rupees a month.
හැබැයි අහිංසක ජනතාව ගැන මේ ලක්ෂයකට වැඩි තියෙන කෙනෙක් අහිංසක වෙන්නේ කොහොමද?
Now on to your top story this evening. Operations have commenced to locate 3 people who were trapped under a mound of earth that collapsed on a house in Tambuliar in Barakapala. According to the police Special Task Force and the Army are conducting a joint operation to locate the missing individuals.
The Disaster Management Centre of the Kegel district said that the mound had collapsed on the house following heavy showers this afternoon. The father, mother and son of the same family have faced this unfortunate incident. The Kegel Regional Secretary said that a friend of the boy who was visiting the house is also suspected to be trapped under the debris. Security forces and local residents managed to locate the father and admit him to hospital. Operations have commenced to rescue those who have been trapped by the landslide. The President's Secretary called me and he instructed me on a way forward as well.
Several areas in the country were battered by heavy rain since this morning. Certain areas continue to receive heavy rainfall with more showers predicted. The Met Department says the low-level atmospheric disturbance still persists in the vicinity of the island. Therefore, the cloudy sky is expected in most parts of the island.
The spill gates of the Mahaweli Dam have been opened 3 feet due to heavy rains. The office of the engineer in charge of the Mahaweli Dam said that water is being released to the Victoria Reservoir at a rate of 700 square feet per second. Residents living in low-lying areas have been advised to remain vigilant. The water level at the Gamba water gauge have gone up to 3 meters. According to our correspondent, either side the banks of the Ging River were inundated this morning. Cinnamon cultivation in Urugasmang Handia Gaul were inundated since this afternoon. Light vehicles were unable to enter or exit the Southern Expressway from the Ballypand interchange as a result of flooding on the outer roads in the area. Low-lying areas around the Horan town were inundated by this afternoon. Lowlands in Gamba were also underwater by this afternoon as a result of rising water levels in the Attanagulu Oya and Uruwal Oya. The Gamba-Kandana main road was also inundated from several areas. A Kobil in Demodara Alla in Bandaravilla was damaged heavily after a tree had collapsed onto it owing to strong winds last night. Several roads were inundated as a result of rising water levels in the Mahaya in Pitipula Valley, causing severe traffic congestion. An unidentified body has been recovered this morning from the Muratalya in Munasinghapura, Kiriala. According to Newsfirst reporter Dinesh Bhopedia, police surmise that the deceased could have lost his life when attempting to cross the stream during heavy rain. Although construction of a bridge across the Muratalya had commenced, it had been abandoned, paving the way for many accidents of this nature to occur. Fishermen in many areas refrained from setting out to sea today owing to inclement weather.
We are experiencing a lower atmospheric disturbance around the island. The intertropical convergence zone, which means the area where the winds of the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere meet, is situated close to Sri Lanka. That is why we are experiencing rainfall. Our forecast predicts rainfall to continue until the 19th or 20th.
Accidents related to lightning have also occurred following heavy rain. A house in Andayam Kanda Akmimana had been damaged severely after it was struck by lightning.
The Sri Lanka Navy says that a vessel with 6 sailors who were engaged in operations in the southern coast to investigate suspicious vessels has been missing for about 20 days. Navy spokesperson Captain Indika De Silva said that they had set sail to the southern coast for the operation on the 16th of September. The Navy spokesperson said all communications with the naval vessel in question have been disrupted since the 17th. The group of missing sailors are attached to the Southern Naval Command. The Navy has failed to obtain any information regarding the whereabouts of the vessels so far, despite conducting multiple search operations.
IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva says the IMF is looking to expand donor coordination, especially like countries Sri Lanka. Speaking at today's Global Policy Agenda meeting of the International Monetary Fund. The IMF Managing Director gave a general overview of the aims and objectives that are currently on the IMF agenda. She spoke of creating an environment to safeguard financial stability by adopting macro-prudential policies that could tackle vulnerable in the financial sector. Georgieva also spoke of supporting emerging economies and developing countries.
And for countries suffering from the food crisis, we have expeditiously opened up a window in emergency financing, the food shock window, to provide rapid financing to urgent needs. And let me say finally a word on debt. We are pressing for a more effective debt resolution mechanism. We want the common framework to become more predictable, with guidelines, and able to bring equality of treatment for all creditors, public and private. And we are also looking for ways in which we can expand that kind of donor coordination to middle-income countries such as Sri Lanka.
The Paris Club creditor nations has last month reached out to China and India, speaking to coordinate closely on Sri Lanka's debt talks, but is still awaiting a reply. This is according to a Reuters report quoting a source with direct knowledge of the matter. Paris Club officials reached out to 2 of Sri Lanka's biggest bilateral creditors after the crisis-hit nation reached a staff-level agreement with the International Monetary Fund.
According to Reuters, the source, who wished not to be named as the discussions have not been publicly announced yet, stated that the Paris Club still hasn't received a reply from either country. The person added that India and China might be at odds on who should take the first step to engage in close coordination with the Paris Club on Sri Lanka. The Reuters report says that the IMF officials have also met with Indian officials in Washington on the sidelines of the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank. Chinese officials were not present in person. Sri Lanka is seeking an ad hoc coordination platform to obtain financing assurances from bilateral lenders, which also include Japan. The latest IMF report showed in March that Sri Lanka's total foreign currency debt of $38.7 billion amounted to 48.2% of GDP. Government data shows that Sri Lanka owes close to $14 billion to a wide range of bilateral creditors, of which 66% is owed to non-Paris Club members. Sri Lanka also needs to renegotiate around $12 billion with overseas bondholders after defaulting on its international debt earlier this year. On the 23rd of September, Sri Lanka urged for a swift agreement with its international creditors to clear the way for a desperately needed $2.9 billion IMF bailout. The IMF's board needs to ratify last month's staff-level agreement on the tentative $2.9 billion lifeline, conditional on Colombo striking a deal with creditors to restructure its debt.
More news will come your way after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
News First, main sponsor. 25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
Local and foreign jobs, solutions to labour issues and a host of other services for the Galle district at Glocal Fair 2022. The path to success on the 15th and 16th of October 2022 at Samanala Ground, Galle, along with a grand musical show with popular stars for your entertainment. Log on to www.glocal.lk for more information and to register.
නිවෙස පුරා ගලන මේ සතුට සුරක්ෂිත කරන්නේ Eslon Insight. Eslon ජීවයයි ජලයයි ජීවිතේ.
Welcome back to the news. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has stressed that the Trincomalee harbour must be developed as a harbour of strategic importance. He commented on the harbour while attending a special meeting in Trincomalee today to discuss matters pertaining to the development of the Trincomalee district.
Prior to the meeting, the President visited certain locations earmarked by the Surbana Jurong Master Plan for the Trincomalee district. The Bay of Bengal is not developed enough. It will happen in another 10 to 15 years. Our aim is to make Sri Lankan ports focal points. India has already come forward with several programs. We need to intensify activities in Sampur concerning solar. However, if the progress of these development activities are hindered, they will be taken directly under the supervision of the central government from other corporations. There was heavy resistance against the handing over of the oil tank farm in Trincomalee since 2003. If we had given them back then, we would have oil today. There would have been no queues and no riots. Even if the country's economy fell, we would have had oil to function. But we had empty oil tanks. That resulted in our vehicles' tanks running empty too. Such obstacles cannot emerge again, hindering the development of these areas and its people. This will be presented to Parliament and the plan will be passed as law. Governments can change, parliaments can change, but policies should remain. We have reached agreements with India to develop the industries in this area. An industrial zone must be established. I propose this zone to be operated jointly by India and Sri Lanka. In terms of the airport, we cannot land large aircraft to China Bay. So we must decide whether Hinguragoda or Vaunia is chosen. If an international airport is to be constructed, it must be done in either of these two areas.
හිඟුරක්ගොඩද වවුනියාවද යොදවන්නේ කියලා. ජාත්‍යන්තර ගුවන් තොටුපළක් පස්සේ ඇති කරනවා නම් ඒකේ දෙකෙන් එකක් අපි වින් කරන්න.
The government has proposed to increase the income tax of citizens earning over 100,000 rupees a month from 6% to 36%. If we don't have dollars, then the government should implement a way forward that can generate dollars. But what are they doing now? They're trying to dig deep into the pockets of innocent men and women. The government is trying to turn Sri Lanka into a living hell. They're imposing one tax after another. We can't even begin to comprehend what's working in the minds of these so-called economic experts. The Rajapakshas gave massive tax reliefs to the ultra-rich. Now they're doing what they couldn't do to Ranil Wickremesinghe. They're giving relief to the rich and taxing the poor. I think the proposed taxes are higher than usual. What do you expect us to do? Print money? That will just cause more inflation. And when we cut or reduce taxes, you accuse us of giving a tax relief to our friends and family. How can someone earning more than 100,000 rupees be innocent? Can we all call you innocent? You wanted us to impose direct taxes and not indirect taxes. Well, these are what you call direct taxes. Please tell me, do you want us to remove those as well? You said not to burden the public with indirect taxes. These are direct taxes. The general public is not affected by direct taxes. The government is trying to say they are moving away from taxes such as VAT and moving to a direct tax scheme to tax the rich. But these taxes will harm society. The value of money depleted during the Rajapaksa regime. If someone earned 100,000 rupees in 2019, then the value of that 100,000 rupees has reduced to 30,000 now. If you are taxing someone who is earning 100,000 rupees, you are just adding further distress to the people. You may say that 100,000 rupees is a big amount, but this will affect a majority of employees in both public and private sectors. It will affect small and medium scale industries as well. They are already facing interest rates of around 30%, 15% VAT. They are already facing interest rates of around 30%, 15% VAT and 2.5 nation building tax. They are lost in the world of taxes. The government is trying to increase its revenue, but they will have zero revenue if the businesses close down.
News First with the people.
Foreign Minister Ali Sabri made a startling revelation today that the previous cabinet was not fully aware of the dire situation that the economy was falling into. The minister was speaking at the launch of the book Poverty of Prosperity, a review of the Korean development model. The speech extended into a number of topics, including government responsibility for the prevailing economic crisis and Sri Lanka's foreign policy.
The issue we have learned again and again, nothing bigger than the economy. It's like the heart. If your economy fails, everything fails. We learned it and learned it with the hard way, unfortunately. Even in the cabinet, we must admit, we thought everything is okay, economy is going fine. We were worried about our area. We were having a lot of great plans, particularly when I was holding the post of Justice Ministry. I was looking at the laws to be reformed, digitalization to be improved, infrastructure to be built, more judges to be brought in, but unaware of the fact, I must confess that the amount and the deep nature of the economic troubles that we were undergoing. That is because the economic literacy in this country is very, very minimum. If the cabinet is, that's the level of the cabinet information. And what about the normal people? But without taxations, there is no future for this country. Into 1981, 21% of our GDP was taxes. Today it has come down to 8.3. So we can point fingers. We say that give us free education. But having taken free education, 6,500 of our doctors are now working for NHS. How much of taxes have they paid back to the country? You need to look at that. We are only finding fault with the politicians. Yes, they are to be blamed, including myself, because they are the leaders. They have failed this nation. But they are not alone. Everybody else also failed this nation.
Minister Sabri held the portfolio of Minister of Finance during the last government. Minister Sabri explained Sri Lanka's complicated time in Geneva at the recent UNHRC session. He explained his stance that the position of Sri Lanka was not to quarrel with the West, but to remain firm against operative paragraph 8 of the UNHRC resolution number 51L1 that stipulate that there needs to be an external mechanism to collect evidence, collate it and file cases of war crimes against the Sri Lankan forces. Sabri claimed that this violated the sovereignty and constitution of the government of Sri Lanka. Sabri's primary point of contention was that the UNHRC linked Sri Lanka's humanitarian crisis to the government's economic crimes, and this was a novice move to discuss financial malpractice at the council. He went on to explain that negotiations with the co-sponsors of the resolution were ongoing and Sri Lanka is looking for a domestic truth-seeking mechanism to deal with the allegations. Furthermore, Sabri explained that much is being done to meet the criteria regarding post-war reconciliation and rehabilitation set by the UNHRC, such as amending the Prevention of Terrorism Act, adding that the PTA must be removed.
Leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa says taxes are not the only option to increase government revenue. The government is bankrupt. They neither have money nor a vision. The people are burdened with even more taxes to feed the government's empty pockets. Why can't the government retrieve the money that was revealed through the Pandora Papers? Why can't we take legal action against those who stole money from the poor man's pocket? This government has no intention of doing that. They are not here to bring the thieves before the law. They are ruling this country through the blessings of the thieves. The opposition leader made these remarks while presiding over a donation of a bus to the Siddhartha National School in Gaul under the Sakvala program implemented as based on a concept of the opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. This was the 36th bus donated under this program. Opposition leader joined students of the school for some sports following the event.
The Samagi Trade Unions Collective made a revelation regarding the process of purchasing crude oil today.
The refinery has now become a washing machine that transforms black money into legitimate money. A special report reveals that the Petroleum Corporation has incurred a loss of $90 million within the 6 months between March 2022 and 6th of September. There is no sense of transparency in these transactions. They have carried out underhand deals purchasing crude oil of inferior quality. Who owns this company? This is Coral Energy Limited. These are the investments by the sons of the modern kings of Sri Lanka. They have looted $90 million. The authorities at the top must be held responsible for this. It has been 24 days. We have had to pay $3.2 million for the substandard fuel shipment imported by Coral Energy Limited. They have 30,000 metric tons of inferior quality furnace oil at the refinery. We can't supply these stocks to power plants. The refinery has been closed for 8 days now. That is a loss of $900,000 incurred daily when purchasing refined oil. It has been revealed that they tried to purchase 6.3 million metric tons of fuel for $284 each. It was previously purchased at $179 each. Is there even a point in summoning the technical committee to cope? They reversed the ministry's decisions. That shows how corrupt they are. What they should do is implement a legal commission as per the directive of the Human Rights Commission in Geneva. But they are just increasing taxes instead. Implement a commission comprising senior Supreme Court judges and bring the corrupt Rajapakshas before the law.
The Gamba team travelled door-to-door in the most rural areas of Sri Lanka in a joint effort with the University of Peradeniya today as a part of the ongoing door-to-door campaign. Each of these villages face several difficulties that have left them further distressed despite the ongoing crisis.
Gamba door-to-door. Gum at the teams that travelled to Jaffna, Matale, Kalutara, Mulativu, Polonnaruwa, Ratnapura, Kirinochi, Mana, Gaul and Anuradhapura districts toured several other districts today as well. Over the next few days, Gum at the teams will tour across the Matara, Puttalam and Vaunuya districts. The objective of the door-to-door campaign is to formulate an understanding of how badly the lives of the people have been affected by the COVID pandemic and the prevailing economic crisis in the country. Gum at the teams were in the villages falling under the purview of the Vaunuya South Divisional Secretariat of the Vaunuya district today. The Gum at the team visited Ulukkuluma, LB State, 40-acre, Januda Gammanaya, 400-acre and many other villages in the area. 16-year-old Ashan Pobudu has been compelled to abandon his education simply because his family cannot afford it anymore. Ashan's parents are daily wage earners, and 16-year-old Ashan takes care of his 2 younger siblings while his parents are away. The 2 younger siblings are currently schooling, but they do not know for how long. Gum at the teams visited the Kapparagoda, Ibbawela, Kandavatta, Jayaviragama and other localities in Matara today. The Gum at the team came across the Kapparagoda village when touring the Valigama Divisional Secretariat. Over 50 residents of the Kapparagoda village have not had access to clean drinking water for many years. The village, being situated on high ground, has resulted in the lack of access to clean water. Although a project to construct a tube well was implemented a few years ago, it has not been completed as of yet. Gum at the teams that were in the Puttalam district over the last few days travelled to Chilau today. There are close to 300 farmers living in the Manuangama village. These farmers are facing unfortunate consequences of the unauthorized extraction of sand from the Daduru Oya. Water sources have been contaminated due to the unauthorized extraction of sand from the Daduru Oya. The water in the area is not suitable for farming anymore.
ඉතින් මේ ලුණු ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ මේ වැලි අදින හේතුව හින්දා.
ඔයක් නෙමෙයි දදුරු වැවක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. එච්චරට වැලි ගහලා පළල් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
Our team came across an unauthorized sand extraction taking place even when they were touring the village. A majority of the greens in the Sri Lankan vegetable market are cultivated in the area surrounding the Daduru Oya. Farmers in Sippikalana, Vilattava and Mugunu Watavana are left devastated without fertilizer and fuel. These farmers cultivate greens that are exported as well. However, the current crisis in the country has brought the vegetable export industry to a standstill. Gammatha door to door.
Jayagamu Sri Lanka.
Our boys will face the world at the T20 World Cup starting Sunday. Would you like to send Team Sri Lanka your wishes? Here is your chance. WhatsApp a 30-second clip of your creative wish to 0777 6020 and end your wish with Jayagamu Sri Lanka. We will show Sri Lanka and the world how Sri Lankans support Sri Lanka.
Jayagamu Sri Lanka.
Now in one of your headline-making stories, the Court of Appeal ordered the 4th Magistrates Court to suspend any action in the case filed against former President Maithripala Sirisena with regard to the 2019 Easter Sunday attacks for a period of 10 weeks from today.
Earlier, summons were issued on Sirisena by the 4th Magistrates Court to be present in court today with regard to the case. Thereafter, the former president filed a writ application with the Court of Appeal seeking to quash the summons. Justices of the Court of Appeal, Sobit Rajakaruna and Dhammika Ganepola, ordered for the debate on the application to be taken up on the 6th of December 2022. In addition, an order was made for written submissions to be filed on the 30th of November 2022. However, the interim injunction sought by Maithripala Sirisena to quash the summons issued by the 4th Magistrates Court was not issued today.
අධිකරණ කටයුත්තක් නිසා විශේෂයෙන්ම මම සම්බන්ධ දැනට ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් මට විශේෂම කියන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ.
ඔය වගේම දැන් මේ රට හිමිව රටක් බවට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේකේ සමාජීය ඔබතුමාලා පොඟීමක් තියෙනවනේ යම් කිසි ඔබතුමාලා.
ඒ ගැන විශේෂයෙන්ම 1978 ඉඳන්ම රට පාලනය කරපු අයකට වගකීමක් වෙනවා.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena appeared before the 4th Magistrates Court in Colombo with his counsels thereafter. Court decided to postpone the case until the 27th of January. We filed a writ application with the Court of Appeal regarding the summons. The Court of Appeal directed the Magistrates Court today to postpone any action on this case for 10 weeks. It will be recalled on the 27th of January.
Eric Solheim, who was recently appointed as an advisor to President Ranil Wickremesinghe, met with representatives of the Tamil National Alliance today. Media spokesman of the TNA President's Council M.A. Sumandiran and TNA MP Shanakya Rasamanikam had attended the meeting. Posting a tweet following the meeting, Eric Solheim has said he discussed Sri Lanka's economic recovery, green developments and political reforms. Moving on, the Sri Lanka Podujana Lawyers Union had convened a media briefing today. Let's now take a look at some of the views that were expressed during the briefing.
There are fuel queues in France at present as well. Is a Rajapaksa governing France? It is truly disappointing to say that the ladies who converged at Mirihana are the ones who first brought their children as a human sacrifice. There is no difference between the LTTE leader Prabhakaran and those mothers, in my opinion. Newborns were brought to protests. Children were exposed to various strains of the coronavirus. Where is the right of the child to be safeguarded? Their mothers put them in danger. As a country that has signed the United Nations Charter on the rights of the child, I would like to remind the authorities at the Child Protection Authority of Sri Lanka that you have a responsibility to save our children.
The gas and petrol queues are no more. When all these issues are being resolved, politicians in the opposition want to resurface them. If anyone thinks they are protesting at Galface because they are empathetic, that is not true. They do not have a love for the people. They are only two
Two special criminal investigation divisions have been established in the southern province. Sri Lanka police said that they were established within the Gaul and Mathura Criminal Investigations Division.
Crime Watch.
The prime suspect in a shooting of a three-wheeler driver in Ahungalla was gunned down last night by the SDF. The suspect was 36-year-old Mahesh Indika, a resident of Thanamalvilla. The suspect arrived in a car in Ahungalla and opened fire at the three-wheeler driver. However, since the driver of the three-wheeler had tussled with the shooter, he had missed his aim. Police said the suspect had opened fire at the three-wheeler driver by accident. The suspect was in Ahungalla in search of a three-wheeler driver who was injured in a shootout on the 24th of August. The SDF arrested the 36-year-old suspect yesterday. Police said the suspect opened fire at the police when they escorted the suspect to locate the weapon used in the killing, and the suspect later succumbed to his injuries. Police added that the suspect was involved in many organized crimes over the years.
Crime Watch.
More news will come your way after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, 25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
Welcome back to the news. The screening of the documentary titled Evoking got underway at the auditorium of the Bandaranayake Centre for International Studies last evening, followed by a panel discussion.
Evoking, a film by Udan Fernando, traces the journey of a Sri Lankan-born emigre to the Netherlands as he endeavours to restore the royal house of Jaffna in The Hague. His ascent to the throne as the new king of Jaffna rests on his claim to descent from the lineage of the Arya Chakravarti dynasty, a northern Sri Lankan kingdom that fell in the 17th century with the Portuguese invasion of Ceylon. The film chronicles the aspiring regent's recollection of his forebears, their exile and his own childhood. Several dignitaries, including the chairperson of the Bandaranayake Centre for International Studies, former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumartunga, were present at the event. Following the screening, a panel discussion was held with the participation of Professor Jayadeva Uyangoda, Professor Nirmal Devasri, Sharanya Sekaram and Dr. Udan Fernando, moderated by Sonali Vanigabaduge.
Professor Uyangoda, speak to us about your reaction to this documentary. Given the fact that there are these kingship claims as juxtaposed with present-day Sri Lanka of the executive presidency, this fetishization almost of absolute concentration of power, are we living in a land where there's a new name for monarchy?
You know, this film can be interpreted at a variety of levels. But you know, there are hopes, there are anxieties, there are memories of the country they have left, and so there are dreams and fantasies. But that's at one level, personal level. And I find one of the most powerful lines of narrative of this film is the hidden story. That's why I say that it's a film which is a parable, an allegory about Sri Lanka's contemporary politics. You know, this whole the monarchy, fantasy of the monarchy. And ironically, this fantasy of the monarchy has come to Sri Lanka after Sri Lanka became a republic. And that's a contradiction in terms. But the real story I want to say is that 1978 Constitution is a fantasy of a person who fantasized himself as an emperor. You know, while I was watching this film, there were a lot of, you know, it kind of evokes a lot of, you know, political memories of the last 50 years. You know, a lot of, you know, critical political thoughts come to your mind. Question I wanted to raise is that while watching this film, I constantly began to thought that, you know, this is a parable of the question of our times in Sri Lanka. Why is it that the executive presidential system remains unreformable?
An event to mark the World Food Day was held at the United Nations compound in Colombo 7.
The event was organized by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, together with the World Food Programme and the International Fund for Agriculture Development, under the auspices of Prime Minister Dinesh and Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaravira. World Food Programme Officer in Charge Gerard Rebello and Sarat Dash, the UN Resident Coordinator and Chief of Mission to IOM Sri Lanka and Maldives, were present at the event. A video message by President Ranil Wickremesinghe was also shared at the event.
We all know that due to the fall in production of food crop, mainly due to the absence of chemical fertilizer, today we are facing a shortage in many other items that are required for our daily consumption. The raging inflation has put food out of the reach of many people. While we are now overcoming these issues, Sri Lanka and the rest of the world are faced with a second crisis. The Ukraine war has created a major food crisis in the world. It will be compounded by the inflation that is taking place globally. So just as much as we have a problem both locally and globally, others have a problem globally. So food will not be available for many groups throughout the world.
We need to make sure that the exact requirement of fertilizer and agrochemicals are used in crop husbandry while increasing the crop productivity by using correct blend of organic fertilizer with correct management options. When we talk of management, let me also admit that there was a tremendous management failure over the years that pushed us to this deep crisis that Sri Lanka did not expect. Therefore, we have to once again move carefully on a more pragmatic approach that we first overcome the issues of food production, demand for food and the delivery for food. We, the government, give subsidies to the farmers. Farmers accept it. Farmers get into debt. They produce. When it brought to the market, half of it has no market. Other half goes as waste. This is the big challenge that we face in the rural centers of agriculture marketing.
We wish to bring back our farmers to their field by providing quality fertilizer and other required inputs to make Sri Lanka self-sufficient with food. I personally believe in improving productivity and income in the agriculture sector, giving priority to protect biodiversity and natural resources. We hope to develop the agriculture food value chains to improve the livelihoods of the smallholder farmers by increasing access to training, finance, digital technologies, extension services, social protection, early warning systems, and crop varieties or animal breeds that are resistant to climate change. By implementing the National Agriculture Policy, is given the opportunity for investments in infrastructure, affordable technologies, and training to minimize post-harvest losses.
Gamba has always been a ray of hope for people, those living in most rural areas of Sri Lanka. Today, Gamba provided another family with a permanent shelter, constructing a house to Chandima Nelum Kumari and her family in Eldur Haliala.
Chandima Nelum Kumari and her children live in abject poverty, unable to even feed themselves on a daily basis. Their biggest dream was to have a place to call home. In 2021, News First aired a report on their plight. Following this news report, APS Logistics International Private Limited came forward to assist Chandima and her family to realize their dream. Construction of the house that commenced on the 18th of June this year was completed in just 4 months and today was handed over to Chandima and her family.
The government of China has donated 1.2 million rupees worth of essential medicines to the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital in Colombo today.
The donation was handed over by the Chinese ambassador Qi Zhenhong. Various batches of medicine worth 1.2 billion rupees have been donated to Sri Lanka under its 500 million renminbi emergency humanitarian assistance to tackle the shortage in medicine.
We feel for Sri Lanka and continue to contribute to the health of our Sri Lankan brothers and sisters to the best of our capacity. Firstly, China has been the biggest donor and supply of PPEs, test kits and vaccines to Sri Lanka throughout the pandemic, which largely helped the island to win the battle against COVID-19. In the coming months, more medicine supplies with a total value of 5 Fini rubies will be handed over to the Sri Lanka and delivered to hospitals and patients across the island. A brand new national hospital outpatient department center in Colombo, which can accommodate 6,000 patients daily, will be soon open to Sri Lankan people.
Former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga says Sri Lanka needs freedom and a properly functioning democratic system. She was speaking at the launch of the Women for Freedom project, which was held in BMICH earlier today.
The program was launched under the auspices of former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, and several ambassadors were present at the event.
25% of our women are subjected to physical and or sexual abuse, and it's roughly the same number of children. Civil society in Sri Lanka, perhaps because of by default, because the state is not functioning effectively in most areas, have become happily very active. Attending to the crime or the act after it happens is very important, but we have to go to the root causes of this. So it is a very severe, deep-seated problem within our societies. I suppose education, higher education, and in the education process, training them these values and all that will help a lot. But we will have to reflect deeply upon the causes of social and continuing social and political violence in our society and find solutions to that. My plain and simple and crude answer to that, but we'll have to refine it, is that we want democracy in this country, freedom, human freedoms, and a properly functioning democratic system, properly functioning democratic governments. So I think for that we will need several more Aragaliyas. I hope I won't get arrested when I leave this place. So
and that's a wrap of Primetime News here on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I am Raza Irfan. Thank you for watching and good night.